Hello, yeah! My dear fellow, I apologize for my tardy arrival. Mr. Sholmes, are you alright now? Ha ha ha! Alright? I am all wrong. Sorry? I've only just managed to summon the strength to stand there. I asked the judge for 5 minutes. But I fear even that may prove too much for me. Pray forgive me should I pass out. Let's make this discussion as short as possible. Hurdy, this place is full of idiots. None of them can see how wonderful your chemical blood analysis is. Ah, well, that concoction of mine was really just a bit of sport to assist me in my investigations. I never took the trouble to refine it for appraisal by the scientific community, an oversight on my part. Right. Modesty? Surely not. Bescheidenheit? Nein. But enough of that. I'm here to give you this, my dear fellow. Ist das nicht von Susato die Kleidung? What's that? A lavender furoshiki weapon. A living present from Miss Susato. Oh! From Miss Susato? If possible, matters were to be settled without me giving you this. Those were her instructions when she asked me to do her this favor. I don't understand. Miss Susato foresaw today's events, I believe. She knew that the culprit would attempt to escape justice by means both devious and underhand. And that you, Mr. Naruto, fighting fairly as you are won't do, would find yourself in considerable peril. At that very moment of crisis, you were to be given this small parcel. Those were the dear lady's instructions. A leaving present from Susato-san. Whatever could it be? What is this? Ist das nicht das Ding, was Katzenlöcher machen kann? Oh! It's a machine I made. Ah! Für die Cat Door, genau. Als ob das nochmal relevant wird, das hätte ich ja im Leben nicht gedacht. Look, I use this. It's my latest invention. What is that? I call it the cat flapper-mat. It can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Reggie in seconds. A cat flap, genau. What's Susie up to? Mrs. Sato muttered the following words before she left. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to be a judicial assistant. What? Didn't she say something like that? Ja, hat sie. You really are the best judicial assistant in the world. Well, that's extremely flattering. But I'm sorry to say that I've been a complete failure. Whatever did she mean by that, Mr. Sholmes? That night, when you left Windy Banks in pursuit of the thieves, Miss Susato made use of this contraption for a certain purpose. That is your answer, dear fellow. That night when you left Windy Banks in pursuit of the thieves, Miss Susato made use of it for a certain purpose. Okay. Not at all cryptic then. Hat sie das Fenster da reingemacht in die Tür zum Storage Room? Weil haben wir erst die Diebe gerannt und haben wir dann mitgekriegt, dass die Diebe gerannt, ja moin. Die Diebe gejagt und haben dann mitgekriegt, dass da jemand erschossen wurde. Oder haben wir erst danach die Diebe gejagt? Das ist die Frage. Susato-san used his cat flapper-mat that night, but why? The cat flappermat has been entered into the court record. A compact machine for the rapid creation of small flaps and larger doors to allow cats to come and go freely. Your 5 minutes is over. We're out of time already. I'm grateful to you for affording us that brief recess, Mr. Weeper. I need to no thanks, Detective. After all, the die is cast. Is it really? The jurors are unanimous in their leanings. No doubt my learned friend will consider a summation examination. But any attempt to alter the verdict now would be utterly futile. I wonder. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? The rest is down to you, dear fellow. What is your plan? Oh God, das Finale. The rest is down to me. I need to be careful here. If I make a wrong move, the trial will end badly. My lord, the defense requests further cross-examination. Time to think. Oh God. Boah. Was requesten wir? Summation examination, further cross-examination, time to think. Ich würde eher sagen further cross-examination, oder? Wenn wir das schon können. Further cross-examination.
Objection!
The juror have spoken. Protocol dictates that you may not cross-examine the new witness now.
Objection!
The defense is not asking for the cross-examination of a new witness, rather to continue with one of an existing witness. What? It would appear that a rather important detail has escaped your attention, Mr. Weaver. My lord! Requesting your lordship's permission to interrupt the cross-examination. Thank you, officer. Very well, the cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objection, counsel. No, my lord. Das ist gerade richtig spannend. So nobody can say anything then. If Bruno asks to resume his cross-examination of Mr. Graydon, the court is obliged to allow it. This is absurd! I would remind those present that this is my courtroom. I concur that the defense is entirely within its right to request the continuation of the cross-examination. However, I will not permit an unremitting protraction of these proceedings. Also ganz ehrlich, ich hätte auch geheult, hätte ich noch eine Summation Examination machen müssen. Also, ich muss mir ja noch welche machen, das ist klar im nächsten Spiel, aber hier, ich bin so done erstmal mit denen, das ist schrecklich. Unremitting ist unaufhörlich und Protraction. Hinziehen, achso. I will not permit an unremitting protection of these proceedings. Therefore, I have decided to afford the defense one final opportunity in concluding the cross-examination. Okay, this is it. Counsel, you must choose but one statement from the witness testimony. Eins! Als ob! And but one piece of evidence to present in support of your argument against it. A single chance to present evidence. Alter, das hatten wir schon mal irgendwann. Und ich hasse es immer. Ich hasse es immer. If, following that, the situation remains unchanged, I shall move to adjudication. Is that clear, counsels? You will not press the witness any further. My lord. Yes, my lord. A single statement and a single piece of evidence. Most generous. Well then, Mr. Naruto. It's high time I fell in a dead faint. Okay. I leave this in your capable hands. Damn. Das bedeutet viel, Sherlock. Herlock meine ich natürlich. Auch wenn du jetzt umgefallen bist. Mr. Sholmes! Ja. They've come a long way, ne? Erst verdächtigt von Sholmes und jetzt kann man sie als trusty partners bezeichnen, ne? To stand so insistently before the court in a state of such high favor. Either the man has extraordinary strength of mind or an extraordinary lack of feeling. I imagine he's feeling very little now. The detective is sleeping soundly in one of the antechambers. Strike a man when he is down, why don't you? Well then, Counsel, are you fully prepared? Yes. One statement, one piece of evidence. I won't let Mr. Sholmes down, or Iris. And I won't waste this finest chance that Susato-san has given me. This is going to decide the entire outcome of the trial. Very well then. Under the terms I have outlined, you may resume the cross-examination. Okay, ein Statement, ein Beweis. Cross-examination. The moment of the shooting again. Ich speichere nochmal. The moment of the shooting again. Oh, die Musik! Die Musik! While these ruffians were justing with the broker, I was still near the entrance to the shop. When Windybank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shot himself in the stone. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though. Hier muss ich das machen, ne? Weil da war noch kein Peephole. Das wurde erst durch dieses Gerät gemacht.
Objection!
What on earth is that eccentric contraption, Counsel? Oh, it's my cat flappermat, my lord. It makes a way for cats to get in and out of a room. It can cut through any door you can think of and make a new little door in the middle of it. That's right, my lord. It's a device for creating so-called cat flaps. Small doors for cats to come and go as they please, without their owners having to open the main door. I'm sure we can all work that out for ourselves. Ah! But that cat lover's contrivance has no possible relevance to this case. Oh, really? Of course it doesn't. To start with, there was no cat flap in the pawnbroker's store. Not being a keeper of cats myself, I'm afraid I fail to see what this has to do with the matter at hand. Perhaps it would help if I described its function another way then. This contraption is able to create a peephole in any door you can imagine, in practically no time at all. I beg your pardon. A peephole, you say? 2 nights ago, we arrived at the scene only minutes after the murder of Mr. Windybank had taken place. That's right. According to the paperwork at the yard, it was you, your Japanese assistant, and Sholmes. Yes, the 3 of us were together, and it's recently come to my attention that my assistant made use of this device at the time. Your assistant did what? There was a peephole in the storeroom door. I can attest to that. Because I looked through the peephole myself in order to see inside the locket's storeroom. This is ridiculous. What are you trying to say? Of course there was a peephole in the door. I said as much in my testimony. How else could I have witnessed the crime, for pity's sake? Es wäre interessant zu wissen am Anfang, wo wir das erste Mal in der Pawnbrokery waren, ob da schon so ein Peephole war. Weil ich kann mich nicht erinnern. Also ich kann mich legit nicht erinnern, ob das schon eins war oder nicht. Ich habe nicht drauf geachtet. Yes, how could you? What? Counsel, kindly say what you mean. Warte. Gucken wir mal. Guck mal, da ist kein Peephole. Das ist... Alter, als ob! Das ist mir ja gar nicht aufgefallen. Und da ist wieder eins. Um 1:30 Uhr, wo er schon tot war. Da ist eins. Das ist mir ja gar nicht aufgefallen. Holy shit. Und es war die ganze Zeit da. Counsel, kindly say what you mean. Alright, it's time. Time to strike the final blow. What I mean is this, my lord. My assistant, made the people in the storeroom door, and until such time she did. One moment. The door had no hole in it to look through. What? No!
Objection!
This is a farce. Are you really suggesting that the peephole in the door was... Yes, it was created only after the incident had taken place by my judicial assistant using this device. Your assistant tampered with the crime scene whilst being fully aware of the gravity of her actions. It is a most serious act of vandalism, for which I humbly apologize, my lord. It was in the few minutes that I left the scene in order to pursue the Skycan brothers and alert the police. Nevertheless, in the light of this new information, it becomes apparent that Mr. Graydon's testimony is riddled with holes. Riddled with... Explain yourself, counsel. The majority of Mr. Graydon's testimony that appears to incriminate the defendant is based upon what you witnessed through the peephole in the storeroom door. Yes, that filthy girl shooting the man in the back. However, if at the time of the incident, the peephole did not yet exist in the door, there's no possible way that you could have seen what you claim to have seen. Grr. In short, your entire testimony is a pack of lies. Order. Is there any credence to the revelation?
Objection!
None whatsoever, as my learned friend must surely realize. Exactly, this is just some cheap trick designed to discredit me. I'm afraid not, sir. Of course it is. Do you seriously expect people to believe that plaything can cut through a solid wooden door? Oh yes, I designed it to be very profound. Powerful, profound. It can cut through even the toughest of doors. That's absurd. I don't believe it for a second. Haha, I had a feeling you'd say that. What? Waggy, Cooey, time for dinner. What's up? Well. Ah! Young lady, this is the Old Bailey. One does not make cat flaps in the old paneling at the Old Bailey. I'm not done yet, don't worry. This doesn't mean that the peephole in the storeroom at the Old Windybank was made by your machine. And there's no way you can prove that it was. No? But it's easy. What? Die Bilder. The cat flaps my cat flapperman creates are all of a fixed size. And the dimensions of the peephole at Windybanks are an exact match. Hehe, old turkey's lost for words. Excellent work, Iris. Thank you. And now it's my learned student friend's turn to be lost for words, I feel. I believe your judicial assistant has already left the country for your Eastern Island home. Well, yes, that's true. Then you may have some difficulty in establishing all of the facts. For the sake of argument, let us assume the people has dimensions that are perfect fit for this contraption. In that case, when was the peephole cut? The prosecution demands proof of your answer. Ah! What is the purpose of your line of inquiry, Lord Francis? It's very simple, my lord. The defense argues that the peephole was created after the incident using this device, but now that the perpetrator has returned to her native land, she cannot testify to the fact. There's no proof. And for as long as the defense remains unable to prove when the peephole was made, my learned friend's claim amounts to nothing more than a baseless accusation. What? Nein, wir können es beweisen. Ionoske, guck dir die Fotos an and see that it's so, Lord von Siegs. Well, Counsel, don't give up now, Uno. This is the time to create your own opening and force your way through. I don't know if I can do this, but I do know one thing. Susato-san is the greatest judicial assistant in the world. Very well. The counsel for the defense will present evidence to support the claim made. Proves that the people in the door of Windybank's dome was created after the event and not before. Hier, zuerst das Foto.
Take that!
What are you? A print from the detective's infernal cameras again? My judicial assistant, Miss Susato Mikotoba, is an extremely intelligent and capable woman, which is why I never had any cause to doubt that she would have considered the scenario and made sure I had the necessary proof. And the necessary proof is that photographic print, Counsel. This print shows the scene in the shop moments after the defendant enters the premises. Agreed. And it also shows the accused mercilessly wielded a gun in the direction of the defenseless broker. But more to the point, it pictures the storeroom door in the background. Let me see the print again. I don't believe it. This really is quite remarkable. The door to the storeroom is completely devoid of a peephole of any description. Ah! Mr. Graydon. You couldn't possibly have witnessed the crime as you claim to have done, because at the time it happened, there was no peephole in the door. In other words, your testimony is a catalogue of lies. Order! I am satisfied with that the defense has substantiated its claim beyond all reasonable doubt. This witness testimony was entirely fallacious. That's not the only thing we know beyond all reasonable doubt. My learned friend's assistant's skill can no longer be denied. The woman tampered with the crime scene. Ja, aber sie ist jetzt aus dem Land, was willst du tun? But more importantly, good lord, there's more, Lord von Siegs. The defense may have established a reprehensible instance of perjury, but that is no proof that this man is the victim's killer. Yes, that's right. What? I was there at the scene, it's true. And I was shot in the arm, it's true. But that's all. Yes, in fact, if you look at the circumstances, I am the victim here. Oh, please. No! I don't believe this. But they are right, as it stands now. I don't have any definitive proof that he is the culprit. Still, he can't worm his way out of this now. Iris, you know what they say? There's no point locking the cat's door after the cat has bolted. Isn't that right, you know? As Hurley always says, one lie begets another. No, wait, that might have been a line I wrote for him in one of my stories. Well, no matter who said it first, you're right. Mr. Graydon, not only did you give false testimony to the court, but the lies you told make no sense. Make no sense? What do you mean by such a remark? What you said in your testimony reveals that you know something you shouldn't have known. In other words, there's a fundamental inconsistency in your statements. Ja, dass sie einen blutigen Mantel hatte oder was? What?
Objection!
This is provocative talk, counsel. Won't you enlighten the court? Explain this alleged inconsistency. Iris was right. One lie begets another. The inconsistency is revealed by the lies in the witness statements. They show that Mr. Graydon had knowledge of something he shouldn't have known anything about, namely, the bloodstains on the coat. The bloodstains that were present on Mr. Straight's coat. That's right, the victim's blood splattered all over her when she shot him. But how could you possibly have known that? Obviously, because I saw her do it to the people in the... The point is not that you lied in your testimony, Mr. Graydon. It's the nature of the lie you concocted that is so revealing. You're not making any sense. Then let me ask you a simple question. How is it, Mr. Graydon, that you knew of the existence of the peephole in the storeroom door? What? Well, obviously weil immer noch da drin war, als es gemacht wurde, oder? Has the cat got your tongue, witness? The peephole in the door was made after the incident occurred, and once I returned to the shop, having failed to catch the two burglars. Scotland Yard's investigators arrived immediately. Since that time, the police have been at Windybanks constantly carrying out their investigation. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Well, yes, of course. The place is chock full of pawned articles, and my lads have to thoroughly examine them all. So I gave the order to have officers working around the clock in shifts so we get through it all. And consequently, there's no way that you, Mr. Graydon, could have gained access to the shop. Therefore, you should have known nothing about the people in the storeroom door. So the fact that its existence forms the basis of your testimony is completely inexplicable.
Objection!
And yet, the fact remains that Mr. Graydon did maintain that he witnessed the crime take place through the peephole in the door. How on earth is that possible? Weil in the storage room war. Could I have a word, please, Lord Van Zieks? Speak, Inspector. It's just that I really ought to be getting back to the station now to put in my report. There's really nothing more I can add to this testimony, so if it's all the same to you, permission denied. Oh! It's not all the same to me, Inspector, not at all. You will remain exactly where you are until this trial concludes. Of course, sir. Mr. Graydon, you shouldn't have known about the existence of the peephole. Which can only mean that you must have been informed about it by somebody else.
Objection!
Stop there, my learned friend. You realize, I trust, that the words you just uttered have extremely serious implications. Yes, but the defense believes the details about the case that Mr. Graydon claims to have seen must have been revealed to him by a certain person before his testimony. And in fact, considering a particular clue we have, there's really only one person that could be. Was? The scene must have been written by a certain person before his testimony. Okay. Who is the person in question, counsel? Who gave this witness details of the crime scene to facilitate his false testimony? Keine Ahnung. China? Top Windybank? Selbst?
Take that!
This is the person in question, my lord.
Objection!
Whatever sins others may conceal, it's very clear who has the means to reveal information about the crime scene to the witness. Oh, oh, der Inspektor, natürlich! Der Inspektor, natürlich. Gregson. Gregson? Hä, aber was bedeutet das?
Take that!
The truth is, it can only have been you, Inspector Gregson. Me?
Objection!
You had better have some proof to substantiate such a rash claim, my learned friend. Consider the fact that we have only been aware of Mr. Ashley Graydon's identity for the last few hours. We learned of it only during the course of the trial today. Indeed, preparations for his testimony were made with great urgency during our hour-long recess. While the police executed the subpoena and brought the man here from the communications station. And until that time, Mr. Graydon would have had no idea. No inkling that he would suddenly be required to appear in court. Are you suggesting that until such time as he was summoned? Yes, my lord. Until then, it's reasonable to assume he knew nothing of the peephole. It was only once Mr. Graydon was in the stand that he realized his position. That he would have to defend himself against the accusation that he was the third intruder. You are suggesting to the court that it was while this trial was in progress that he received the information, so that he could commit perjury in order to save his skin. Exactly. And the only person with knowledge of the investigation that he had any contact with is you, Inspector Gregson. This is a bloomin' outrage. Why would I be giving away details of our investigation to this fella, eh? I was summoned to his lordship's chambers during the recess in any case. Had you forgotten that? Quite true. I had a number of questions regarding the events that transpired at the pawnbrokery. Which means, aber während der Aussage von wem war es nochmal? Ich weiß gerade gar nicht mehr, aber da haben die sich unterhalten. The first time these two laid eyes on one another was after proceedings resumed following the recess. Since then, they've been in full view in the stand, where such illicit discussions couldn't possibly have occurred. Ah! Oh, I've just remembered something, Bruno. What is it, Iris? There was one time before, wasn't there? I think it was when Ginny was testifying. Genau, als Gina ausgesagt hat. Oh yes. Now that you mention it, when the bailiff was dispatched to retrieve McGildett's music box from the scene of the crime. That's it! It was during that testimony. Yeah. I remember finding it strange at the time. Mr. Graydon and the inspector seemed to be having some kind of secret discussion. It would have been impossible for you to give Mr. Graydon the information he needed then. You little towwag, you're making all this up. I'm a respectable Scotland Yard inspector, for crying out loud. Why would I do something like that? Why would I be giving away confidential details to the likes of this bloke? Admittedly, you wouldn't have had any reason to do something like that for no gain. But perhaps it was part of a deal of some kind. Then it starts to make more sense. What deal, counsel? I wonder if perhaps in exchange for details about the people at the crime scene, Mr. Graydon agreed to give a certain something to the inspector. I'm sure I need not remind the inspector that if found to be true, striking a deal of any kind with a witness would be considered a gross case of malfeasance. Malfeasance? Was ist das? Malfeasance. Dienstvergehen. Ah, okay.
Objection!
It's becoming clear that jumping in with accusations is this Nipponese student's specialty. I don't do that. But with the stakes so high, the prosecution is not prepared to listen to baseless charges. It is incumbent on the defense now to present evidence in support of this diabolical claim. Evidence? Just what are you proposing that the inspector demanded of the witness in return? The court must see proof of this alleged deal. If Inspector Gregson really did strike a deal with Mr. Graydon, wollte vielleicht die zweite Platte haben? Then logically, there's only one thing he could have asked for. That must be it. Uno, do you think it could be? Yes. Ich habe keine Ahnung. It's a missing link that would join all the dots together in this puzzle. I must press you for an answer now, counsel. What evidence explains the nature of the alleged deal that Inspector Gregson made with the witness? Das ist ja aber auch funny, ne? Er heißt Gregson, der andere heißt Graydon. Ist ja auch irgendwie ähnlich. So, speichern wir mal. Nature of the alleged deal. Die zweite Disc.
Take that!
Als ob! Inspector Gregson. Besides this murder, is it not true that you've been working on another, very important case? What? What are you getting at now, Sunshine? Is it possible that this other top-secret case is what is alluded to in this newspaper article here? The classified secrets being leaked overseas from the Ministry of Justice. How the bleeding Noah could you? We discovered during the course of this trial the music box deposited at Windybanks by Magnus McGilded. A special music box designed to play 2 discs at once. It would seem very likely now that encoded on the pair of discs that were in McGilded's possession are the leaked classified secrets. So I put it to you, Inspector, that in order to recover the second of the discs containing those secrets, you covertly made a deal with Mr. Graydon, in which you exchanged the disc for details of the case. You little... Ah! Okay. Ich glaube, wir sind dem Ende nahe. Order, order, order! On the day of the incident, when we met you at Windybanks, you said this. I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGilded's down to the yard, thank you very much. So hand it over. No, don't! Don't give it to him! It's mine, that is. Mine! I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Scotland Yard already knew at that time, isn't that right? That Magnus McGilded was involved in the stealing of government secrets. My orders were recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT, strictly hush-hush. Okay. And that explains why, when I presented this disc as evidence to the court, you objected so heavily, I presume. Because you know that it contained highly confidential information. Blimey, not likely. I mean, I wasn't that sure of it myself. I realized there was a possibility, that's all. Inspector, surely you're not saying that in order to acquire the second of these music box discs, you did indeed reveal confidential details of his crime scene to the witness. To aid and abet this man in giving false testimony, das ist schon ganz schön kriminell. There's no other way that Mr. Graydon could have known of the existence of the people. It's the only explanation. A deal was struck between these two men. No, Gah!
Objection!
If, and I stress if, this sobering assertion turns out to be founded in truth, it would mean that the second disc is, as we speak, here in this very courtroom. Wait, what? In this courtroom? How would you possibly make a claim like that? Because Inspector Gregson is a Scotland Yard detective. What? What's that supposed to mean, eh? As a seasoned policeman, the inspector will have approached his alleged deal with caution. Certainly, he would not have accepted the gentleman's agreement in this matter. No, he would have insisted on having the article agreed upon in the palm of his hand. Good gracious, then you mean to say Inspector Gregson already has the item in question in his possession? He has the second disc actually on his person.
Yes!
The defense demanded the inspector a search at once. Definitely. They could only have struck a deal with each other when Ginny was testifying before. And Gregson hasn't moved from the witness stand since. My lord, please, order an examination of his personal effects immediately. Well, Inspector. Erstmal Pommes gönnen. This young lad wants to tone down his imagination. He's insulted me and my profession quite enough. However, if it'll put this matter to bed and dispel any doubts about my involvement, then I'll happily submit to a body search. What? He's going to agree to it? I presume you are aware of the precipice on which you now teeter, my learned student friend. You've made the most serious allegation against Scotland Yard here. If, following the search of the inspector's personal effects, no disc is found, you will be deemed unfit for court service. This trial will end, and my country's government will formally demand of yours that you are severely reprimanded. Reprimanded. Getadelt, gemaßregelt, okay. That sounds serious. Indeed, to have a visiting student make such defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook. You're just threatening Luna because you're scared. The accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for grave consequences. It's true. I can't imagine Gregson would have accepted the gentleman's agreement for something so critical. The disc must have physically changed hands, which means the inspector should have it. But somehow, something doesn't feel quite right here. Very well, Counselor. You know the implications, so let me ask you for one final time. Yes, my lord. Do you still persist in formally requesting a search of the inspector's personal effects? Search someone else, würde ich mal sagen.